Hey, what up everyone, this is Mondo all day, back with another video. And in this video, I'll be doing a build guide for Hawkeye. I'll be going over which artifacts I use, which uniques and medallion, as well as go over the powers I use, the talents and traits, hero synergies, and at the very end, show you some tips and pointers as far as how I was able to pass Cosmos trial without using any infinity points and using all of his uniques. So, except for one. But yeah, this is my build guide for Hawkeye. So yeah, let's get right into it. Oh, another thing, sorry for the delay. I know usually I upload this build guide the day after, like right away, after the Cosmic Trial video, but late last night I was about to record the videos so that I can upload it early this morning, but for some reason, I'm not too sure if it's Gazillion or my internet, but at first it disconnected me, and then secondly, it couldn't reach to the server, so it might be my internet or something, I don't know, but that's why I didn't upload it to just early this morning, just because of that reason, because I couldn't log in. So yeah, let's go right into it. So the first artifact is Gem of the Curse. I'm using this for the Brutal Strike rating, critical damage rating, critical hit rating, and brutal damage rating. And then I'm using Book of Demonicas. Again, to me, this is probably the best in slot for any character. This grants you +3 to all attributes, and also when you hit with the basic power, gain 30 damage rating for 3 seconds, and it stacks up to 25 times, so that's really good. And for the medallion, I'm using Mega Sentinel Medallion. I'm using this for the health increase, damage rating to range, defense rating, and deflect rating. And then I'm using Mayhem Demon Blood. I'm using this for the health increase, damage rating to range powers. And when you get 10 stacks, you gain +2 fighting and +2 speed. That's very good because he is fighting and intelligence attributes. So you want to get, when you get this stack of +2 fighting, you obviously increase your damage. So keep that in mind. He is fighting and intelligence attributes. And then last but not least, I'm using Kevlar Plated Helmet. I'm using this for the critical hit rating to range attacks, deflect rating, but mainly for the when you critically hit, gain 5 fighting for 5 seconds. Again, this is really good because he is fighting based, and so having that +5 fighting is really good, because if you combine the buff of 5 fighting with this one right here, Demon Blood, that's about 7 times 4 is 28, so right off the bat you'll get 28% more damage just with these two artifacts and these two buffs. So again, this is really good for him. And then for the Forged, 800 defense, and I have it blessed to where I recover 6 spirit when you hit, and this grants me 60 spirit increase, 6% to power duration, and 6% spirit cost reduction. For legendary, I'm using Savage Axe. I'm using this for the physical damage rating, critical hit rating, brutal damage rating, and brutal strike rating. For the ring, I'm using the sling ring of the Kamartaj, which grants me extra health, a damage rating to range powers, and critical hit rating as well too. The health is really good. It's over 2,700, so that's really good. Now for the uniques, I use all of his except for slot 1, but slot 2 to 5, they're all his uniques. It's again except for slot 1. For slot 1, I use the Dust of Death. I'm using this for the brutal strike rating to range attacks, brutal damage rating, but also +2 fighting and +2 to all attributes. Again, that's really good because he is, also, like I mentioned, he is fighting in intelligence, but this unique also grants me +2 to all attributes, which means it grants another 2 to fighting, which again, that +2 to fighting, and then +2 to all attributes, that's 4, and then +2 to all attributes, which is intelligence, so that's already 6 right there. 6 points to his main. From this unique, you get 6 points to his main attributes, which again, 6 times 4 is 24%, so that's really good. Hence why I chose this, and plus this is a really range-based unique, so it might be a little bit difficult to obtain, but I had one of these extra, and I felt like this would be best for him. I do have his slot 1 unique as well too, and as you can see there, it is not really the best, because it's good, don't get me wrong, but personally, if you can, I would prefer using the Dust of Death, because apart from the extra attributes it grants you, but the 2% chance when you hit with a range power to inject Dust of Death, which deals over 80,000 energy damage, and also too when you brutally strike with a range power, gain 1100 critical damage rating and 289 damage rating versus weakened targets. So again, pretty decent buffs, but mainly I'm using this for the other buffs as well too. Not buffs, but the plus 6 attributes. So again, everything else there is unique except for slot 1. His slot 1 is good too. It grants you +1 intelligence, +1 fighting, brutal strike, brutal damage rating, physical damage rating. Overall, it's good, but if you can, I personally would prefer this one. But again, it's really up to you. If you use his slot 1, it's still good too, regardless. And then for the costume, I'm using Hawkeye's Civil War movie costume. That way you can see it right there. And then Catalyst, I have it to where I gain extra health, physical damage rating increase, +2 intelligence. And it's cosmic, grants me, after using signature power, gain 1000 damage rating for 4 seconds. But also crafted fixes, critical damage rating increase. And then tech bonus, when you are attacked, gain 500 deflect rating for 10 seconds. So again, not too bad. Insignia, I'm using Insignia Valkyrie. I'm using this because it grants me extra health, 1100 health, but also 2 of the brutal strike rating and critical damage rating. And then for the pet, I have it to where I gain 8% base health increase, 50 spirit increase. When you hit with a physical power, gain 5% energy damage. It's kind of irrelevant, but anyways. When you dodge an attack, gain 4% basic damage rating, and then 4% brutal damage rating for 12 seconds. That's pretty good. And then the last is +2 fighting. So overall, these are the items I used. So not too bad. His items are pretty good as is. Now for the powers, again, top to bottom, left to right. Serrated arrow, rocket arrow, explosive arrow, boomerang arrow, 3-arrow burst, flash bomb, and then Stark Tech Claymore turret. This is his signature. It's really good. So, and again, infinity points, I use no infinity points at all, as you can see here. And then for the hero synergy, I might have to redo these, but let's take a look at it. So then we have here Cable. I'm using this for the critical hit rating multiplier increase. Doom for the signature damage increase. Electro for the physical damage and damage to bosses increase. Hawkeye for the move speed, critical damage increase. Luke Cage for defense rating multiplier increase and physical damage rating increase. Moon Knight for the critical hit rating multiplier to physical powers increase. Squirrel Girl for the damage to bosses increase. Vision for the range, power, and damage to machine increase. War Machine for the 10 spirit, 1+1 fighting, and then Wolverine for the brutal strike rating and brutal damage rating. Alright, so let's get into the talents and traits. His rotation is really simple. It's pretty straightforward. I'll go over that in a bit, but let me go over the talents that I used. So for the first row, I'm using Muscle Memory talent. I'm using this because when you activate a trick arrowhead effect, you regenerate health and spirit, and that's really good because he is a bit weak in terms of his defense, and his spirit too. His powers use up a lot of spirit, especially for this build. So having this perk, or this talent, excuse me, of when you activate a trick arrowhead effect, it gains you health and spirit, is really good. If you're wondering what that is, trick arrowhead effect. It's these powers right here. It's electric arrow, freeze, and I believe it's these two, right? No, and explosive arrow. So what this does is when you hit a certain power, and I'll show you, and I'll go over then in a bit which one. When you activate this particular effect, which is, and I'll read it to you guys, trick arrow powers generate trick arrow heads when activated, which cause your next rocket arrow or boomerang arrow to trigger a free copy of the trick arrow. I'll go over that in a bit. So basically what that means is this: when you use a certain power and it automatically does a trick arrow power, which one of these, again, it's just electric arrow, freeze, or explosive arrow, when you activate their effect, you regenerate health and spirit, 10% of your max health and spirit. That's why I use that, because as I mentioned, he is a bit weak, so having the health regeneration is good, and also the spirit is really good too, because he uses up a lot of spirit. And so with these, with trick arrow, it's kind of hard, trick arrow heads, excuse me, these powers over here, as I mentioned, explosive, electric, and freeze, is basically what this is what it does. So I'm going to use my explosive, and you can see what I mean. Alright, so when I use up a specific power, which is this one right here, and I'm kind of going a little ahead, but I'm going to activate again explosive arrow, and it does explosives, right? But when I activate 3-arrow burst, you're going to see that's going to activate other powers, which is either explosive, electric, or freeze. So here we go. Explosive, and then here we go. See how it did that? It froze and the electric. That's what it is. That's a trick arrow head effect. So when you activate this talent, when you activate the trick arrowhead effect, which you just saw right now, I gain 10% of my maximum health and spirit. Number 2, second row for the talent is make 'em count. So what this does is trick arrow effect deals 30% more damage, which you just saw right now when I activate certain power. You know, that effect where it did electric and freeze, that effect is increased by 30% with this talent. But also trick quiver arrow powers gain the following effects: total damage 100%, trick arrowheads 2 charges, and then there's an 8-second cooldown. So what those are is, I believe they're these right here. Yeah, trick arrow. So these powers right here, which is electric, freeze, and explosives. I believe that's it, right? Yeah. So again, those get that effect of trick arrow, which powers gain you basically, the total damage is increased by 100%. So that's really, really good because you want the extra damage. So for instance, this one right here, when I chose explosive arrow, it says 8,000 and 12,000. When I activate this, it's going to increase by 17 to 25,000. So that's what it does. Basically increases the power to these specific powers right here. That's what this talent does. Third row is, I'm using is thread the needle. And what this does is when you activate this, rocket arrow charges up 100% faster, and it does 50% more damage. And that's really, really good because this is a really powerful power for him. And I'll show you what this one does right here. So this is rocket arrow. So I'm gonna actually show you without it, thread the needle, so you can see what I mean. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have to charge it, but I want you to see how long it takes and a little bit of the amount of damage it does. So here you go. Okay. Now I'm gonna activate. I'm gonna do it again, but this time I want to activate thread the needle. And you're gonna see how fast it what do you call it? Charges. See, that's more damage, and it charges a lot faster. That's what it does. But thread the needle also does has another buff, which boomerang arrow max is 2 extra charges. So you get 2 extra charges for boomerang, but the boomerang damage is 50% more. So overall, this talent helps out both boomerang and arrow. So rocket arrow gets the charges faster and the damage is increased by 50%, and boomerang arrow gets 2 charges and increases the damage by 50%. So that's really, really good. And it's really good too because what this does is these 2 powers, there's a 100% chance to spend a trick arrow head if available. And if you read it here, according to this trait right here, which is trick quiver, trick arrow powers generate trick arrow heads when you activate it, which causes your next rocket arrow or boomerang arrow to trigger a free copy of the trigger arrow. And I'll go over them in rotation. It sounds confusing. Trust me, it's easy. It'll make complete sense. When I first read it, I was confused. But once I tried it out, it'll make complete sense, and I'll go over the rotation. So that's our third row. Fourth row is Gemini Turret Arrow talent. Now, many people might choose either Streamline model or Gemini Turret Arrow, but I'll go over why I chose this one. So what this one does is serrated arrows chances to fire additional arrows or double. When you start to claim a turret, the chances increases to 100% for 8 seconds. So these right here, believe, I think there you go. So my basic power has the chances to fire an additional arrows are doubled. When you use a basically signature, the chances increase to 100%. So right now, there is, if you read it carefully here, 40% chance to fire an additional arrow and 20% chance to fire another additional arrow. But with this talent, when you activate a signature, the chances of that happening, which meaning the chances of firing additional arrows, is increased to 100%. So meaning when you activate the signature, automatically when you use serrated arrow, you're going to be firing additional arrows according to this talent. Now this is, again, I use this because when I activate the signature, I'm kind of leaning over to my rotation, but I tend to use flash bomb and then signature, and then after that I just move away and just keep using serrated arrows or my other powers. So I wanted that 100% chance. Now the reason why I say other people would use Streamline Model is because Streamline Model, when you activate this talent, Stark Tech Claymore, which is a signature, the cooldown is reduced by 20 seconds. And then right now, the cooldown is 35 seconds. So when you activate this talent, which is Streamline Model, when you activate signature, the cooldown is reduced by 20 seconds. But the duration of the turret is reduced by 2 seconds. So instead of the duration being 6 seconds, it goes down to 4 seconds. So me personally, I would rather have the turret to be a lot longer in the field because it does a lot of area damage. And so again, this is just a preference choice, but either of these two are good for this particular build. And the fifth row, personally, I didn't use any of this because I don't use any of these powers, but I'll read them to you very briefly. So for Overwhelming Force talent, when you use Wave of Arrows, which is this power right here, I don't use it, hence why I didn't choose it. Moth to Flame, Striking Arrows, which I believe is these are Shrieking Arrows, which is this power right here, which again I don't use, hence why I didn't use this. And then the last talent is Reposition and Re-engage. Again, Elusive Arrow, which I believe it's, where's that? This one right here. Again, I didn't use this power, so this fifth row is irrelevant to my particular build because I don't use any of these powers. So those are the powers, and explains to you a little bit what they do. So now let's get into the good stuff. Of course, my team up is Quake, but yeah. So on rotation is really simple. So I'll just get this out the way. Serrated arrows, activate them whenever your powers are on cooldown. Just activate this as your basic power. So again, just really get this power out the way. For the rest of these, it's really simple. The first thing I would always do is Explosive Arrow. That way I can do, the good thing about this power, it does quite a bit of area damage, but also it does fire. But the good thing about it is that it gains of explosive trick arrowheads, which again, if you read this trait here, Trick Quiver, which is when you activate trick arrow powers generate trick arrowheads when activated, which causes your next rocket arrow or boomerang to trigger a free copy of the trick arrow. So basically what this means is this: when I activate Explosive Arrow, and then shortly after activate Boomerang Arrow and Rocket, whatever this trick power or trick arrow or this power does, when I activate Boomerang, it's gonna do a free. I think of it like a. It's gonna activate another Explosive Arrow. So this is what I mean. Again, this sounds confusing, but it's not. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna activate Explosive. Then I'm going to do one Boomerang, and you're going to notice that when I activate Boomerang, it's going to automatically activate another Explosive. So here you go. See that? I did 2, and I have 2 more charges. I can do it again. See what I mean? So that's why I chose to use this talent, which is Make Him Count, because I'll always use powers that always use Trick Arrow, which basically meaning it always does the effect of a trick arrowhead. So hence why I chose this talent right here, Make Them Count, because I want the effect to increase by 30%. Okay, that's 1. And 2, Thread the Needle. As you notice, as I showed you guys in this talent, the rocket arrow does more damage, but also the charge is faster, and Boomerang gets 2 charges and does more damage. But the good thing about this, and again, this is my going into my rotation, always activate Explosive Arrow first. That way, when you activate Boomerang and Rocket Arrow, you're automatically going to you're going to fire additional Explosive Arrows, in which again, you want that because according to this talent, the effect of that trick arrowhead, which is explosive or fire, it's going to do 30% more damage. So again, the first thing you do for the rotation, the first thing you do is Explosive Arrow and then Boomerang twice. So here you go. See, it just did 3 explosives, just like that easily. Okay, then after that, I would usually do is Rocket Arrow. So again, Explosive Arrow, then Boomerang twice, and then Rocket Arrow. Okay. Now, what I would do personally, what I would do after that is, if you can, use 3 arrow burst. If not, move, then activate 3 arrow burst. The good thing about this power, and I like it a lot, because it does a burst of 3 arrows. But the good thing about this is that it always activates the trick arrowheads. These powers right here. So meaning it's a good power to do kind of like a crowd control. I'll show you what I mean. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to activate. I'll show you over here. I'm going to activate 3 arrow burst. I'm going to make sure it hits this particular enemy, and you can notice it's going to do damage to all of these. So here we go. See? That's why, to me, this is really good power, and I highly recommend using this because it does those trick arrow, and it does that damage of freeze, electric, and explosive. So here we go again. See that? Right. So hopefully it makes sense. Again, first thing I do for my rotation, activate explosive arrow, and then boomerang twice, and then rocket arrow. And just to reiterate shortly, explosive, activate it, and then shortly after activate these 2, because according to this power, gain explosive trick arrowheads, which will fire an additional explosive arrow when you use a rocket arrow or boomerang. So that's why I said, when you activate explosive arrow, activate boomerang, that way. And the good thing about it too is you can see the charger right here, this bar right here, and I'll show you again. See the charges now, and then if I activate boomerang, rocket, and there you go, use up those charges. Okay, that's that. And then shortly after that, you can use 3 arrow burst or whatever. Now, continuing on with my rotation is the signature. But before you use the signature, I highly recommend using flash bomb. So what this does is it makes your character invisible, but it increases the base damage by 25%, and you're invisible for 3 seconds. It doesn't sound a lot because it's not a long time, but this is really good because, again, you get that base damage. So my advice, and this is my continuing to my rotation, is activate flash bomb, signature, and then right away activate either rocket or boomerang, because these are the ones that do the majority of damage. Preferably rocket, because you want to get the base damage you want to get the base damage buff. You want to get the base damage buff on rocket arrow, because rocket arrow does the most damage. So again, yeah, and plus also too, according to this catalyst right here, after using a signature power, gain 1000 damage rating for 4 seconds. So you really want to use rocket arrow. That way, when you activate signature, you get that, the extra damage rating. And plus, when you use flash bomb, again, your base damage is increased by 25%. So I'm gonna show you how it looks like just activating flash bomb and then signature. It's invisible, and I can just do my rotation. And then basic.
Even for me.
Straight arrow, just use basic. And then you can do it again. Boom. There you go. See? Just like that. And then my advice is, since the cooldown is in 35 seconds, I would say use it again, because once this is in cooldown, you can use this twice, and you'll want to use this twice. So my advice is definitely utilize this on visibility. It's not long, but that you want to use that base damage. You want that buff. That way, you can continue, doing a lot of damage. And so combining everything, it's really simple. I'm going to activate my first rotation, which again, explosive arrow, boomerang, rocket, 3 arrow burst, and then after that I'm going to do my flash bomb, signature, and then most likely rocket arrow, and then again explosive, boomerang, and then 3, and then just from there will be my basic. So here we go. But not basic. Move, whatever, do what you have to do. Boom, just like that. And yeah, that's it. That's my my build guide for Hawkeye. Really simple, pretty straightforward. You don't have to use explosive. You can do electric. It's the same exact thing. or you can do freeze, and I'll show you how it looks with electric. It's the same exact thing. Oops, I missed it, but look, see? So it does it. I'm gonna do freeze right now. Again, you can do, doesn't matter. Get that buff. Let's go over here. I missed that turn. See, it still froze it. Again, it doesn't matter. I just prefer explosive because I wanted the explosive damage. That's all. But it sounds confusing. Hopefully, it makes sense. Again, it's simple. With this trait, excuse me. Just you always want to use these two right after you activate your trick arrow power, which is either electric, freeze, or explosive. And then after that, do the rotation. It's really simple, pretty straightforward. Hawkeye, he is fun. He seems a bit complicating. He's not. Give this a shot. Hopefully this build guide was helpful for you guys to understand. Hawkeye. I know one of you commented saying that he's a bit complicating or it's a bit off, but hopefully this makes sense. Again, it's pretty straightforward. Try it out. Give it about 5-10 minutes, and after that you'll get adjusted to it, and then from there you can just choose your powers, and or change some of the powers that you prefer. And that's it. Again, this is my build guide for Hawkeye. I know it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. He's not that complex. He sounds confusing in terms of trick arrowhead and all that stuff. But again, hopefully this build guide was helpful for you guys, and I was able to explain it clearly. That way you guys can try out Hawkeye and enjoy him. He is a bit fun. I said a bit because I do not like his traveling power, which is, I don't know, I just don't like that. I prefer him like running as opposed to that, but anyways, it is what it is. But overall, this is my build guide for Hawkeye. Again, simple, straightforward, and yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you have any questions, leave it in the comment section below. If you have any requests for certain characters, leave it in the comment section below. I do have other characters coming up. Monday for sure will be Loki. This weekend I do plan on playing with him again, changing up my gameplay style, and then that way Monday you'll see the Cosmic Trial video, and Tuesday will be the build guide, and then Wednesday I'm trying to do Juggernaut. If not, I'll have another character that I'll do Wednesday Cosmic Trial video, and then a build guide Thursday. And that's my schedule. So hopefully this build guide was helpful for you guys for Hawkeye. Again, any questions, leave it in the comment section below. Any requests for certain characters, leave it in the comment section below. If you want to see more videos of mine, keep up to date, or you want to support the channel, again, do hit that the subscribe button, because it means not only a lot to me, but it does help the channel grow a lot. And yeah, this is my build guide for Hawkeye. Simple, straightforward, and yeah, on to the next one. Bye bye.